Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Live Free Now show, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. We want to thank you for tuning into the show, for being loyal listeners of the program. As you know, we deliver a different flavor here on the program. We're not just simping for Donald Trump or spoon feeding you the Kool-Aid of exactly what it is that you want to hear because it's what's popular. We're trying to get deeper to the truth, not just the truth about what's going on in the world, but spiritual truths even, so we can become better versions of ourselves and do God's work on this planet. We're all about community. We're about exiting and building. We're about using alternative currencies. We're about upsetting the beast system. In part by being as happy and healthy as we can be. Today, we're going to be doing an interview with the one, the only Christian Yordanov. You can check out a free masterclass actually that he put together for you guys to learn about myths that other health gurus are selling you that can actually lead you to be in a bigger health problem than if you didn't do any of the advice at all. So you got to watch out. There's a lot of charlatans out there, but Christian's going to be joining us here shortly. We're going to be able to pick his brain about longevity, living your best life, not only just surviving, but having a life full of vitality or thriving, as we would say. So let me know if we're tuning in. Can you guys hear us just fine? Is everything coming through loud and clear? This is the Live Free Now show again, and we are excited to be bringing you this information. Of course, as always, I'm joined by the one, the only Manitty.
One T, not two.
One T. A lot of people get his last name wrong. It's got two N's and one T's.
Two N's, one T.
One T, two N's.
Two T's, three N's?
Three N's, five M's. All right, folks. How you doing today?
Doing good. Glad to be back on the show. Really looking forward to interviewing Christian. And one of the things I'm excited to talk to Christian about is this concept of, people think that they can do it themselves. I talk to people all the time, and I used to be this guy that thinks that I can always do these kinds of things myself. I can do the research. I can pull myself out of a health trap that I may have fallen into. But what Christian has explained to me, and this is also, why I have belief in Jesus Christ, is JC, is because you can't do it by yourself. Even health and nutrition coaches come to Christian to work with him because sometimes they don't have that 10,000 foot view of their health issues, and they think that they're doing everything right and how they're supposed to be doing it, but maybe they still have sleep issues or unnecessary weight gain and all of these kinds of things. It's because they're not considering things that Christian can provide context on. And, he has that detachment from the situation, whereas, those health coaches don't have that detachment. They're wrapped up in their own situation. So I'm excited to interview Christian and pick his brain a little bit more about that, because I think it's super common, especially in today's age with the internet. Everybody thinks that they can just research their way out of their health hole kind of thing. So I think that it's always beneficial to work with an expert and consult an expert such as Christian.
Right on. Yeah. And he's going to be joining us here in about 10 minutes or so. So we look forward to hearing from Christian. Check out livelongerformula.com, livelongerformula.com, if you want to get his free masterclass that he has for you guys. So we were talking about the Intentional Community Summit earlier before we started the show. And we just wrapped up that summit. It was awesome. It had Diana Leaf Christian speaking, Paul Wheaton, Kelly Kresick, our good friend Derek Blows was speaking as well. Derek Blows was speaking as well, and it was a great event, and people got a lot of insights. Yoshi, Pola, Lydia, and Arturo, myself and Rebecca hosted. And one of the things that I was pointing out just before the show started was that it was funny because Paul Wheaton and Diana Leaf Christian, who are a bit older than the rest of, there was like Diana and Paul, and then there's a generation of like Lydia and Arturo, and then I'm there in that generation too, being 40, and there's younger folks like Kelly Kresick and Rebecca and Nicole Reese of Global Eco Village Network. But you could tell that the younger you were, although Nicole shot us straight and was very real about the reality of living in community, the younger, the more optimistic and kind of la. And then the two, Paul and Diana, kind of shot everyone like really straight and were like, this ain't easy. And we've had experiences that were major conflict and major struggle. And so just want to throw that out there. Like, it's a holistic thing. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And the beauty of living in community is that you can become a better person throughout the process if you allow yourself to. There's struggles, there's hardship, and there's a lot of rewards and fruit that comes from it as well. But I think that's part of life too. You know, when it comes to health struggles, when it comes to money struggles, when it comes to community and personalities, you got to take the good with the bad. And in large part, it's those struggles that can make life better when you learn from them. What do you think, Maniti?
Yeah, I mean, there would be no there'd be no sun, there'd be no appreciation of the sun without the rain, right? So we definitely got to go through those hard times to appreciate the good times. And the hard times often make the good times that much better. So intentional community ain't easy. And as John shared, Diana Leaf Christian, or as we like to call her, DLC, in the place to be.
Come on.
And Paul Wheaton's talk, DLC and Paul Wheaton both had phenomenal talks. I absolutely love their talks, not taking away from anybody else's talks, but, you know, just two folks that have been on the ground doing this for a decade, in DLC's case, you know, multiple decades. But, you know, Paul Wheaton doing this since 2013. They both had a lot of great practical information. I also like Paul Wheaton's thing, his example about plates of food. He said, you know, he's provided 500 plus plates of food for community members. And over the past decade, he's only ever gotten 2 plates of food back. So you need to structure your community in such a way that it doesn't rely on people's reciprocity. You know, it has to be structured in such a way that people are kind of forced or guided to, you know, do what they have to do on the land. It's a requirement of the community. You can't just rely on their reciprocity. So I thought there was that's just one takeaway that I got that was really stark. But there were so many. I would really encourage you guys to go to what's our site, livefree.academy/bootcamp.
Bootcamp. Yep, bootcamp. It's available now.
And we're going to be doing a whole intensive masterclass to buy land, build community. John and Beck are going to be leading you through this great boot camp that we've got. And John, do you have anything more to share about that?
Well, yeah, it includes the replays to the summit, the Buy Land, Build Community Bootcamp. Get access to it. We're also doing this incredible mastermind that's taking place at Radical Roots Ranch, if you're interested in that. But for those of you that want to take your exit and build homesteading intentional community game to the next level, head over to livefree.academy/bootcamp, livefree.academy/bootcamp. That offer is available today. But I did want to share, you know, Ryan was talking about the good times, and without the good times, without the bad times, oftentimes we don't really even understand the good times. And it reminded me of something that's really profound that somebody once said that I want to share with you guys right now. It's like a very wise person that just really drove it home after a rough day, a lot of tension. There was a storm outside, and this guy that Ryan and I really look up to, he's an anti-hero of sorts. He wanted to share some wisdom with his family. And so we want to share that wisdom with you right now.
Did you share audio? There's no audio.
There's no
Seeing that you didn't click the audio piece.
Well, shoot. All right.
That's why I was asking.
All right, let's try again. We're going to take 2, my friends. We're going to take 2. We're using a new platform. I know I used that excuse last time, but now we got an even newer platform called StreamYard. Maybe
Entire
some
screen.
of you guys have used it. Oh, right there. Check the
That's-
box there. All right.
Yep.
We're talking about good times. And this is important words of wisdom from the one, the only Tony Soprano. Here we go.
Now, wait a minute. I'd like to propose a toast to my family. Someday soon, you're gonna have families of your own. And if you're lucky, you'll remember the little moments. Like this. That were good. Cheers.
Okay. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You'll remember the little moments like this that were good. And then the irony is
Without audio.
without audio. Ryan was like, "Did you turn the audio on?" I was like, "No, dude, I got it. Chill out, I got it." But I didn't have it.
I knew that he didn't click the box too. I was like, okay, I'll just let
It's
it
like
ride.
Ryan was saying. Sometimes you think you could do it all on your own, but you need help.
Second set of eyes.
It all comes together full circle. And the funny thing is, that's the first season. I think it's towards the end of the first season where Tony hasn't really stepped into his darkness yet. And at the end, the very last episode, his son, who had just tried to commit suicide like 4 episodes prior, is like, "Remember, Dad?" They were eating at a restaurant. It's the infamous last scene. And he's like, "Remember, Dad? You said it's the good times to remember." And his dad was like, "Don't be a smart ass, AJ." And he's like, "No, you said that." And like Tony just completely forgot that he had said that because by now he was all jaded out and dark.
In a bunch of gambling debt and
Total piece of shit.
Yeah.
All right. The good times. You'll remember it's the little things like this. Me and Ryan are big Sopranos geeks. All right. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us bring on our guest of the day, the one, the only CY, Christian Yordanov. How are you?
CY.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's going on?
There he is. He's all red glassed out.
The blue blockers?
I'll take them off. I've started to
they
take
look-
them off.
Oh
for
no, they
recording.
look great, man.
No, wait, I have this big light here that kind of glares in it, so I think.
I think you should put them back on.
Yeah, we got to have them.
It takes.
I don't.
it
I don't.
takes away-
I don't mind burning my corneas for you guys.
No, I think it's the rest of your face that it hides.
Oh my God, the gloves come off.
The gloves come off right at the
Minute
intro.
one. Minute one.
So how are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for asking. How are you?
Good, good.
Great.
Staying busy, trying to roll with all the punches.
Yeah.
Life's
Yeah.
good. Life's good. So if our audience isn't familiar with you, why don't you introduce yourself? And then me and Ryan got a whole slew of questions. We'd love to invite the audience to ask questions there in the comments as well. But
Sure.
tell us, who is Christian Yordanov?
Christian Yordanov. Oh my God. I am on Earth a functional health practitioner and longevity author, and I specialize in helping folks, usually older folks of 45 plus, in resolving existing health challenges, optimizing health, and increasing their longevity. So that's my main thing that I'm focusing on. But of course, I'm so much more than that, But that's if I were to pick what is my job and explain that would be it.
Okay. Excellent. And then when you say longevity, what do you mean just living longer?
Well, I mean, my book is called How to Actually Live Longer, and the reason it's called there's actually in the title is because when you go to these so-called experts now, the big names, I won't name any names, they will tell you stuff around caloric restriction and fasting and reducing protein and taking fish oil and maybe doing a cold plunge and all of this absolute nonsense that is straight up harmful. So That's why I call the book "How to Actually Live Longer." But when I teach people how to live longer, it's not about just adding years to our life, chronological time. That's completely meaningless if you were sick and decrepit, like my grandparents were the last couple of decades of their lives. So though though it's about longevity, it's really about health span, which is, if you think of lifespan as how long you live, health span is how much of that time you are able to just look after yourself and you're thriving, and you can do all the things you want to do. So in order to for us to live longer, we have to increase our health span, because the more healthy you are, the less you degenerate, the more slowly you degenerate, and the more functional you are as you age. So this is always my goal: is how can we be thriving for as long as possible, as opposed to like many people are nowadays, they're just surviving, they're just waiting for the weekend, for the evening, for bedtime, for Netflix time, whatever. And the life can be so much more.
Totally. And Christian, just to ask you a little bit about your practice there, you actually don't work with vegans. Can you do our audience why that is?
We're going right there.
Going right to it.
So I work I work with former vegans, and oh my god, what a mountain to climb that is. A person that's destroyed their health with a fully plant-based diet, that is a mountain to climb to claw back their health. I had one, just as an example, one, she was a younger lady. She was just about 30 or so. A couple of years ago, we started working together, and like, she had all the problems, all the health problems you could think of, from sleep to hormones, PMS. The gut was just an absolute mess, hypothyroidism, all of that stuff. And it took us a good year to claw back her health. And but she was very diligent in terms of following all my recommendations and doing all the stuff around not just diets and supplements, but there's a lot of other stuff around the environment at home, and stress reduction, and gut cleansing, detoxes, liver all that stuff. um so now I'm happy to report, I think she already had her first child. So she got pregnant whilst we were working together, and she was glowing, right? At first she was so gaunt, like you could see the bones in her skull, like her cheekbones, and I was like,
Oof.
that is, you need to. She was like, I'm super lean, and like I exercise all the time. I'm like, stop all the things you're doing, stop all of them. So it's not that I have anything against vegans. It's, I know that if someone is ideologically aligned to a diet that is harming them, I know I can't help them until they're ready to let go of that diet. And this is a big problem nowadays in society, is for whatever reason, so many of us our diet has to become like who we are, or our personality. I'm a carnivore, keto for life, or plant-based, save the animals, save the planet. Cow farts are killing the planet. We got to stop that. So even I was like that. I've done vegan, I've done plant-based, I've done keto, I've done carnivore, and so many of those times when I was doing the diet, it had to be plastered all over Facebook. I had to tell everybody, "Oh, I'm doing carnivore. Oh, I'm in deep ketosis. Do you want me to measure my ketones in front of you so you can see how many ketones I got in my blood?" Like, "Oh, dude, like my blood sugar this." And it's we just have to understand that our diet doesn't have to define who we are. When we sort of let go of that being our identity, we can then become more open-minded to something more healthful, which the ideal diet, I'm telling you right now, it's not vegan, it's not plant-based, but it sure as heck ain't carnivore, strict carnivore. It ain't keto, it
What?
ain't low carb, it ain't all of those things. It's somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Hold on, I want to just add one thing to that. So I'm actually going vegan for a Great Lent. So
You're a Lent guy now.
Orthodox Christians,
Whoa.
during Lent, they only eat plant-based foods.
Bro,
So
I'm Orthodox Christian. I'm Greek Orthodox.
are you?
Yeah. Bulgaria is mostly Greek Orthodox.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so I've been going to
I've been Lenten
Eastern.
since before you were born, baby.
Well, great, man.
Yeah.
So
No, mostly because we were living in communist times and we're super poor, and there was like no meat and milk.
It just worked out.
It just worked out like that.
Oh,
So
we got a joker in the comments here. You're relentless.
hey, come on.
Nice.
So Christian, my question for you is, so it's not my ideal diet for sure.
Mhm,
And it will be a great struggle, which I'm looking forward to, you know, in the name of Jesus Christ. I'm
mhm.
willing to struggle for him. But um, I'm concerned with how I'm going to optimize my hormones during that period because I know that a vegan diet is
Yeah.
suboptimal and I'm putting Christ before my health.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend, you know, for people who will be engaging in Great Lent? What would they do to optimize?
So I think for 40 days, you can do anything for 40 days, right? So I don't think it's going to be a huge problem, especially you're so young. You were, just remind me your age, 27,
29.
29. Okay. So when I was 29, about to turn 30, that's that whole year I did plant-based. That was 2016. I was fully plant-based, but I was like next level with the soy protein shakes, and it was horrific, like
Oh
really
man.
badly done. Um, so and at the same time I was training for a Thai boxing fight, my first ever fight that I wanted to get off my bucket list. And I was training 6, 8 times a week, hard sparring, helping other guys prepare for fights, so extremely hard sparring. I was also going to college. I was doing neuromuscular physical therapy and sports massage certification. I had just started a new job. I was building a whole department in that company, a startup, and I had just met my wife. So I was obviously like, uh, out with her and stuff. So you can do a lot when you're young. So I wouldn't even worry about it. I would just say, obviously, do the basic stuff like make sure your plant foods are well sourced and they're organic. I wouldn't go do too much exertion during this time, just kind of to keep your reserve for your body, because you're going to be getting less uh, of the very nutrient dense animal foods, like liver and meats full of all kinds of minerals and B vitamins. There's a lot less of this stuff in plant foods, and it's a lot more bio unavailable. And I
Right.
would just make sure, if you're eating vegetables, to not eat raw vegetables. I would never eat any raw vegetable, pretty much, for the most part. Fruit, obviously, you can eat raw, but all the vegetables, I would cook them really well. And if you're eating any beans, grains, seeds, stuff like that, I would just minimize that and make sure they're really well cooked as well. That's kind of the basic stuff. But at your age, you could you could probably fast for 40 days and you'll survive. So I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Maybe I should just do that.
Maybe.
Go ahead, John.
So y'all are doing all the Catholic stuff too.
Catholic? No.
The
So
Catholics do Lent.
don't get me started on the difference between Orthodoxy and
boy.
Catholicism. But didn't you had a question for a Christian?
No, I wanted to talk about Lent. I might give something up for 40 days. I don't know about not eating any meat though.
Well, yeah.
It's a church thing. It's not like a.
It
is a church thing, and
back in
churches,
which is
Bulgaria-
fine. I mean, it's fine to have institutions and these practices and rituals from the church, but it's not in the scripture. Or Jesus didn't command us to do that. Or
and Ryan, just one thing about, so my grandparents, all of us were Greek Orthodox in my family, and
OG Orthodox.
so
Come on.
what a big reason they do the Lent coming up to Easter is just there's not a lot of food going around at that end of winter type period. So
It's a practical thing too.
it's a practical thing, and I think a little bit, the governments spun it so you're doing this to get closer to God, where it's like Ramadan. To me, I feel like I've had clients that do Ramadan and stuff, and no problem, like we can always tweak things around. But to me, it's like, okay, if you have to control a lot of people, wouldn't you want to tell them that fasting will bring them closer to God? Lent, like not eating meat,
It
will
does,
bring them
though.
closer to God?
But Jesus fasted for 40 days. There have been multiple instances in the Bible where people have undergone 40-day fasts, and that's what it's modeling after. And the church is the bride of Christ. So yeah, I mean, I know all of the angles where it's like, oh, it's a government control thing. I know Caesar's Messiah by Joseph Atwill. I know all of those arguments, and I'll say a lot of them don't hold water upon further study and introspection or inspection. So
Yeah, but Jesus was also wandering around the wilderness during those 40 days, being
And he
tempted
was-
by Satan. So
and
are
he
you
was
gonna, like,
tempted-
leave your job, leave the RV, and go wander around too?
no.
This isn't like you have to justify it, but I do think there's
Yeah.
something good to think about. Like, one thing that I came to realize with the Old Testament and religion in general is that there is an element of, let's try to leverage these beliefs and institutions in order to have an orderly and just society. And there's a practical element too that doesn't take away from the spiritual piece of it. And at the end of the day, it's like, get out of whatever practice we can get out of to become closer to God. It's just a fascinating thing for me. And it just brought up because I was raised Catholic, and my parents and family, my mom and sister always do Lent and stuff.
Well, I think that the important aspect is giving up vices and things like that.
It's supposed
for
to be
40
hard.
days. Yeah, it's supposed to be hard. You're supposed to struggle. You're supposed to resist temptation to engage in normal pleasures that you regularly engage in. And so I'm
So you're
excited.
doing a no nut Lent, right? I'm assuming.
Is that part of it?
might have-
He's
my-
like, wait a second.
my
Wait,
tea's definitely going to
Jesus
drop
was
doing
pretty sure
veganism.
Jesus was celibate, bro. You gonna go celibate now?
See, now
And you got to
Bro,
give all your money to the community.
here's all of these common logical fallacies
That should have
people
been
like
a
to
heck
put-
yes already. I expected an immediate yes.
He's not committed.
You're not committed, man. You just do the easy things like fasting, starving yourself, and veganism.
You're
But you're
going
not
straight
gonna
to
like
hell,
go celibate
Ryan.
on me. I
He's all
demand
serious
celibacy.
nowadays, so we shouldn't poke because he's gone
No,
all
no,
pious.
no.
It's great.
I'm down for the ribbing and the playful ribbing. I can handle it. But
That's
I
where
just
As long
women
as you
came
don't
from.
climax, it's
Yeah.
fine, right?
I think that y'all are just a little misguided, and it probably not the true intention of today's podcast. But I'd love to give a masterclass on orthodoxy and all that kind of stuff in the future.
We'll have you on
So-
the podcast. We can discuss this stuff.
You don't like going down that road. You think plant medicine is the way to spiritual enlightenment.
It's not that I don't think that plant medicine is a
Here we
path
are.
to
We're going there.
spiritual- I don't think plant medicine is a path to spiritual enlightenment. But what I would say is, first of all, God created those medicines. So I don't have any sort of moral issue or ethical issues in partaking with, uh, using it as a sacrament. And actually, there is evidence, and there's people that have written books. I can't remember now the names of the books, but there is folks that have written about how in Christianity they were actually using various entheogens, and it very well may be that in older religions, as part of the inner circle, they were using these medicines to kind of get closer to God, because
I
what
don't
what
think
they
that's
do is,
true at all.
pardon.
I don't think that that's true at all.
I
To
mean,
be honest
there's people that have written books about it. I
John
have to
Marco
dig them up.
Allegro, The Sacred Mushroom. I'm familiar with a lot of that research, but you look at Jesus's disciples, they weren't doing all of that kind of stuff, and they were all crucified. Some had their skin ripped off while they were still alive, burned at the stake, and they did that all completely drug-free and just with total belief in Christ as God.
Well, we can have both. Who knows, really? Ryan.
Yeah, exactly.
He's pretty. He sounds
Look,
pretty certain.
there is no shortcut to spirituality. You have to chop wood and carry buckets of water. That is the righteous, the royal path to God. I don't think that there's shortcuts. I don't think if there are.
Jesus
What about
gave us the shortcut.
so what about the whole thing about the Bible not actually being like, there's no, the stories in the Bible, it's allegory. They were talking about like the stars, and they were naming them names, and so it's, what about the fact that a lot of people, for example, Jesus, the disciples, it's like 1 and 12 and 13 talking about the zodiac and the sun and the processions. And what about the fact that a lot of people are actually talking about the Bible is it's poetry, it's not meant to be taken literally? Have you ever looked at that aspect of it?
Yeah, I mean, I was a militant atheist for the better part of 2 years, and I knew all these arguments forwards and backwards, and I tried to get a lot of religious people out of being religious to be atheist because I just thought religion was stupid. I know all of those aspects. I've actually interviewed a lot of guys like that who cover, astro theology and that
Mhm.
kind of thing on my podcast. So I'm abreast of a lot of
Mhm.
those arguments. I just think that at the end of the day, they don't hold water. And when you dig deeper into it, like Wes Huff just recently interviewed Billy Carson and he destroyed him. Billy Carson had all of these thoughts that God was a woman, that the Enuma Elish and the Bible are basically the same book, all of these various things. And Wes Huff totally deconstructed all of those myths. And going deeper into Wes Huff's research, you can authenticate a lot of these things, proving that Jesus Christ did walk on the earth. People think that he didn't, and various other things. So also the astrotheology doesn't have a practical application to a spiritual life or a broader application to what this all means. It's all just kind of like, ooh, this is fun and this is fancy and all of that kind of thing. I actually talked about this on one of my podcasts with Alex Sakiris, who's a near-death experience
Oh yeah,
researcher,
yeah.
The
I
infamous
know him.
podcast.
the infamous
He's awesome.
podcast. And I would just encourage you. There's a lot of like sexy, like, ooh, gotcha Christianity, but upon deeper inspection and investigation, they really don't hold up, and in astonishing, remarkable differences. It's kind of fun on the front level, but the deeper you go, Christianity always wins out, from
Well,
my experience.
what I've learned over the past 10 years of being, again, various, at least in terms of dietary ideology, on all the extremes, and then finding a sort of quote unquote middle path. And
Mm.
I've studied other stuff, like I was really into Buddhism and those sort of teachings. What I found in Taoism and stuff, what I found is the important thing always is whatever you believe, you have to understand we are, each one of us are fairly limited in terms of our human experience. We are an expression of the divine. Yes, we are perfect in every way in the grander scheme of things, but as human beings, all of us are fallible. All of us have some kind of limitations and blind spots. So what's important is to always understand that what we believe now, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years time, we might not believe that. We might actually think that was really crazy what we believe, like I did, like the plant-based stuff and then the carnivore, whatever. So it's important to, at least I find now as I'm coming up to 40 years of age, is to not ram my ideology down people's throats. So I have clients of all sorts of walks of life, and uh, you know, religious Christians and atheists, and all kinds of spiritual and sort of shamanic whatever. So I respect everybody's beliefs. I don't agree with everybody, but I'm able to have friends and colleagues and associates and have fruitful relationships in spite of some differences that we have. So,
I'm the
I
same way, and I don't want to cram my theology down anybody's throat either. But given the opportunity, I will
I
defend
will.
Christ. I
Yes.
will defend Christ at every opportunity if people want to challenge that aspect on things. I'm down to go down that road. I don't seek to cram down anybody's throat.
I don't mean to be a crammer, but I
I
may
don't
cram.
I
I don't want to
don't
cram. But
I don't want to like ram my ideology down your throat, but I will at the drop
Take
of a
it
hat.
easy. He's going to give
I
up
will at the
ramming
drop of a hat.
ideology down throats for Lent.
Well,
You
as
would
I
like
already
you would
shared.
be, if you were a vegan CrossFitter, we're all screwed. Like we would like we would have to put a fund together for your assassination or something. I don't know,
Ah,
with Monero or something. I don't know.
I'm with Christian. That well, Christian's getting all extremist over here. I do think obviously Christ was a historical figure. There's other historical accounts besides the Gospels, the Synoptic Gospels, about Christ that reference him being crucified, even. And then, but the four Gospels, it was but Matthew, and John that were actually disciples. And then a lot of that wasn't even written 110% directly by them. But then the other Gospels, Mark and Luke, were further down the road. And I think that there is some allegory and embellishment in there that doesn't deny what I believe too, that Jesus was crucified and resurrected. But I do think that there's an element of, we are going to write this for the purpose of spreading the message of Jesus Christ. And we are going to write it, each of the 4 gospels, written in a different tone, written to a different audience, in some parts at different times. And there's a way that you communicate as marketers and salespeople. We know when, we communicate to our audience in a specific way. And then those 4 gospels too, it's like, there's these historical accounts over here, and then there's the 4 gospels of the believers who were obviously very committed and changed their lives. And some of them saw Jesus in the flesh post death, and they're like, whoa. And so there's a bias, so to speak, that would come along with that in the communication. But I think it can be all of the above. It can be embellished for the purpose of putting together a damn good message that's going to last 2,000 years. There must have been something great about it. And it can also be miracles happened, Christ was resurrected. It doesn't have to be either or. But like Ryan always says, it's all about the fruits. And I see this guy's going deep into Orthodox Christianity and like really taking it seriously and pounding through the Old Testament. And the fruit is, he seems to be a much better person, more at peace.
That's the most important part.
He's only half a piece of shit now, and he used to be a total piece of shit.
Yeah.
Wait till I get to Miami tomorrow.
You're going on Lent from. I don't know.
Well, as soon as I get back from Miami, then I'll be starting Great Lent. But yeah, there's a little bit of a buffer.
Are you going to go to confession?
Nice, bro. You lean out.
Yeah, they do confession.
You're gonna have
That's
to,
great.
You're gonna have to spend. Like, gonna have to ask for a long time with the.
You're gonna get shredded now.
With the Father. Okay. All right. Let's get on with the health stuff. All right, we took a little detour there.
A great detour.
It was a good detour. It was good. A lot of cramming and jamming.
I'm resisting the will to like keep going with it because I'd like to, but
we should have you on my podcast. We can talk about it for 3 hours.
All right,
let's do it.
A 3-hour marathon, and both y'all could take some plant medicine.
We'll both lick a toad before we go on.
There we go.
The sacred toad.
You'll both cram down each other.
Have you ever seen Futurama, Christian?
Oh my goodness.
I have, yeah.
The rabbit hole.
You know the hypno toad?
The hypno toad.
Yeah.
Oh god.
That's what I'm envisioning.
But the sounds that it makes, that's exactly what it
He's looking up hypno toad.
Like. Oh, I know this guy. Okay, all right. So Rebecca and I are working with you in your health coaching services, the functional medicine stuff. And we took the blood tests and we got some of the results back. We still got to do that second test. But what I'm gathering from your modality is that a lot of it is custom advice based on the individual and their particular needs. And that has to do with the diet as well. A lot of these other gurus, and I do want to encourage people to go check out the free masterclass that Christian put together. Absolutely free to check out. 7 popular but deadly health fads, ripping up your gut, accelerating disease, and shaving years off your life. And that's part of the extremist diet. Like, this is the way, you got to do this, keto, fast, this, that, and the other. But in all reality, you got to be careful with the random YouTube videos you come across, because a lot of it has to do with what is your unique physiology, your unique situation, how you handle stress, all that stuff. So can you talk about how in your practice, it's all about really getting to know your client first before you can even dole out any advice?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why. So before we even sit down for our initial consultation with the client, I've given them a few forms to fill out that covers a lot of important things like health history, what they eat currently, what past diets they've done, supplementations and medications they're on, any significant hospitalizations, surgeries, a lot of stuff that I need to know. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? There's a question, what's your routine before bed? How many times do you wake up at night to pee? All of these little sort of seemingly little questions help me build a picture of where this person is at, what sort of gaps they might have, what vulnerabilities, low-hanging fruit that we can start optimizing gradually. So that's kind of super important. I think no practitioner worth his salt should skip this part. And then, of course, we have these longer but very easy to complete questionnaires about symptoms, any specific symptoms. There's 100 points where you just score if you have a symptom every day, never, or in between. And that allows me to, when you have a, let's say, a symptom, for example, pain between the shoulder blades, or some kind of pain, discomfort, or your stool is floating in the toilet, for example, this that indicates some kind of liver congestion, gallbladder issues. So when you score certain symptoms, I can see if you have more symptoms related to the large intestine, the small intestine, it could be the, deficiencies, whatever the case may be, sex hormones for men, for women, thyroid function. So with that, I build a great picture of what we need to do to what systems we need to support in order for you to start improving, optimizing those systems. And as you do, symptoms more sort of downstream from that start to melt away. That is the key to functional health, functional medicine, as opposed to the current allopathic paradigm where we're just masking the symptoms. You have a leak in the roof, you just plug up that leak, but it's that's not the water dripping down from there. That's a symptom of an issue somewhere up in the roof, right? So this kind of stuff. But further here is that, so the naked eye cannot catch a lot of stuff, especially when the person isn't in front of me. I can't see like physical structure of things. So what we also do is we do some really cool lab testing. We've ordered a couple of those for you. So the first one you did, John, with Becca, it was just that's a food sensitivity test where there's only one lab that does this, right, in the States. They take the blood and they expose your blood to the foods and certain chemicals in the food supply, so they can see how your immune system currently is responding to those foods, right? So as you saw in both of your cases, you had actually foods that are very commonly part of the diet, that were very inflammatory. So removing those foods will immediately lower inflammation. Now, you might not feel it. A lot of people do feel it. You won't feel it necessarily, but what will happen is your immune system is going to calm down. And because a lot of your immune system is around the gut, it means your gut is going to get a break from a lot of inflammatory processes going on. So that's just like that test. Everyone does that, right? And then the other one that we're waiting on, the urine test, that's called the metabolomics. That one, when you see the results from that one, you will be like, wow, okay, this is incredible. It's so powerful. There's hundreds of markers on that one. So we can look at vitamin deficiencies. We can look at toxic metals in the urine. We can see deficiencies in things like zinc, molybdenum, the minerals. We can see lipid peroxidation. We can see oxidative stress and DNA damage. There's markers for those. We can see if you have low dopamine, which is associated with depression, with low motivation, low libido, stuff like that. We can see certain neurotransmitter markers. There's stuff like neuroinflammation. We can catch that super early. And I have, for example, one client, we caught that neuroinflammation marker was very high for him. He told me that his dad has, at the moment, Alzheimer's disease, and it's really advanced and really sort of in a sort of horrible end stage. So I'm like, there's something, it could be genetic with you guys, that you're more prone to neuroinflammation. I don't care if it's genetic. There's a ton of stuff we're gonna do, at least for him. Obviously, his dad, he's in the care, quote unquote, of the disease industry. So, but with him, he's still, he's like in his 50s. So we have a lot of time and space to resolve that once and for all, and put in a plan for that to never be an issue for him again. So there's a ton of like this test is when you look at it, it looks like super complex and like 13 pages long, but just the data we get from that, the actionable data, is so incredible. So I always encourage clients to run that one. So if we could only run 2 tests, those would be the 2 that we run. But then sometimes, like when a person has a gut problem, like an overt gut issue or something autoimmune, we also do a stool test. So this is the kind of stuff that doctors, they may know it exists, but insurance doesn't cover it. So they never run them, these tests, and they're not trained to interpret them. I actually have, recently I signed up a couple of osteopaths, one internal medicine physician, a chiropractor, and I have actual health practitioners coming to me to learn my methods, so that not only can they apply them to themselves because they have stuff going on with their health, but also they can start applying them to their patients and clients. So the stuff is powerful. The problem is the doctors, because the insurance industry sort of has them by the short and curlies, they only allow certain tests that are profitable and not very useful. is the doctors haven't learned these amazing tools how to leverage them. That's most doctors. Of course, there's 1% or so that have gone over to the functional paradigm and are using them, and that then becomes a really powerful tool in a doctor that has seen the light, quote unquote, has seen through the scam. They can learn the lab testing in like a weekend. So but the unfortunate fact is that most doctors still haven't and will not in their career. So this is the kind of stuff that we can do with the lab testing, and then based on the lab testing, then every client gets specific protocols um, around, again, nutrition, supplementation, detox, gut health, sleep optimization, hormones, whether that's PMS or perimenopause for women, or low libido, low sex drive, low sexual function in men. um, we can have really simple and powerful strategies to improve that, and just a ton of other stuff, in terms of like lowering stress and so on and so forth.
And Christian, I think that's great that you brought that up, because I said that in the beginning of this episode, actually, that you work with other health practitioners, because a lot of times people are so attached to their situation. They don't have that 10,000-foot view. They think they're doing all the things right. But even outside of health practitioners, people are like, well, I've got YouTube and I've got Google. I can figure out my health problem. Have you run into that situation, and why is that a faulty perspective to have?
Oh my God, I've had so many clients that come to me, but they're at kind of their wits' end, because they're maybe taking 30 supplements, and they might actually know more about health than most doctors, or may have even forgotten more about health than most doctors will ever know. But yet, that's still not enough, because again, like you said, Ryan, when you're so into your own thing, you fail to see very basic stuff, low hanging fruit. So I have these clients that are taking quite advanced and expensive supplements. We're talking where one supplement might be $70, $100, right? And the stuff we use with my clients there, it's super cheap and like high quality, but super cheap, because there's like thousands of supplements, and most of them are propped up by like clever marketing and you know proprietary formulas and nonsense, or maybe some kind of influencer attached to the supplement that pushes it up. So yeah, they're coming, they're trying this, they're trying a cleanse, they're trying this sort of other thing, and then another, they heard something on the podcast, or they bought a supplement, and another podcast, another person they got another thing. So they've cobbled together this protocol, but because they're not trained and they haven't got a clinical experience helping people through this journey, it's a very sort of haphazard, two steps forward, one step back type process. It's like the car, if the car breaks down for you, most of us, okay, basic stuff you can do, maybe you can change a tire, maybe you can change the oil, maybe some people can change brake pads. But if something truly happens to the car that's deep in the engine, that you maybe need to plug in some diagnostic sort of tool to see, or you need to sort of hear the engine and like, oh, that sounds like whatever is broken, or needs changing. Most of us, we know when the car breaks down, we need to take it to an expert, a specialist. The thing is, because we all have a body and we all have access to YouTube and podcasts, and we are interested in health, many of us are, we think we know enough. And so it's usually just to maintain your health, you probably know enough. The problem is when you are in a deficit, in terms of when your health has been deteriorating for multiple months or years, and sometimes decades, you dig yourself into this sort of hole that it's very difficult to just walk out of. It's the hole is so big, you need someone to come in and sort of help, give you a helping hand to get you out of the hole. And it's like when you're in debt, if you have a lot of credit card debt, and it keeps accumulating because of the interest, you can't just get like a part-time job and everything will be fine. You need a serious cash injection that not only covers the base, the interest rates, you want to cover all of that, but then even then you're still at zero. So then you're still kind of, you're still struggling. So you need like a serious cash injection to get yourself out of that hole. And that's what working with a practitioner is. You get a second pair of trained eyes on your case. You get accelerated progress. You know exactly what, not just what to do, which is of course super important, but also what not to do. Because as if you go and check out the masterclass, I think those are 7 things that a lot of people are doing that are actually harming their health. So I have clients that are doing like 5 of them, and I'm like, all right, well, that's you got to stop all of those things, right? So that alone is already going to be beneficial for the person, and then you start doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. So there's a lot of layers and pieces to the puzzle, and people have pieces, but they don't have all the pieces, and they have some of the wrong pieces. So they're kind of not putting together a coherent picture. You need someone to give you the right pieces, take away the pieces that are not part of this puzzle, and then help you make a coherent picture with what you have in front of you.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey,
And go ahead.
So, well, I got a closing thought because we're about to wrap. But if you got something before that.
Well, I would just say, Christian, who is, someone's watching this right now and they're like, man, I have some of these things that Christian's talking about. Maybe I actually do need to work with a health practitioner. Who is your ideal client? And what are some stipulations? We mentioned the veganism aspect. Yeah. What are some stipulations that you're like, actually, you wouldn't be an ideal client for me?
I will say I'm probably dragging my feet because I've got so much on my plate. So like Christian's like, it's one, there's the health aspect and the health advice. And then there's like the accountability coach, and Christian's been riding me, and a lot of people need a good swift kick in the butt. So that's a big element too. It's not just like, here's the advice, but it's like, hey bro, what are you doing? You need to implement this stuff.
Yeah. So my ideal client is absolutely someone that is right now, they know they're a shadow of their former self or what they could be. So they may be operating at like 60-70% of their true potential, maybe even less. And they genuinely want and are motivated to feel better, to like really kick ass. And to that end, you have to be willing to change stuff, the diet, maybe some routines you're doing, some supplements you're taking. You have to be willing to take supplements. This is, for me, if you're not willing to take the supplements, there's no point in even like us even having a call together, because the supplements, high quality supplements that are affordable, they accelerate the person's progress so much. It's almost unbelievable. It's almost unbelievable that we have these tools at our disposal nowadays. So I'm a big supplement geek. I've spent thousands of hours researching, and I continue testing new ones on myself and looking for the cleanest and the cheapest and the highest quality stuff, so my clients don't have to do all of that. So if you're ready to like really kick it up a notch in terms of your health, and you're motivated and you want to invest in your health because you understand that that's the absolute best investment to make, bar none, that would be my ideal client. So someone 40 45 plus, that you might have a gut problem that you want resolved. You're not sleeping as well as you want to. Your libido sucks, or you have either like I said, PMS or perimenopause, or just anything hormonal, right? So again, low libido, low motivation, period pains, hot flashes, all that stuff. Piece of cake. And for me, it's an absolute piece of cake to fix that. Don't even don't even listen to the spiel that all these hormone expert doctors tell you. Oh, it's complex and you got to do this, and oh, this is just the way things are. All of that's nonsense. They're just trying to peddle you their poisonous synthetic estrogens and progestogenic poison concoctions, right? Or put the men on TRT, so they're dependent on the doctors for life. None of that is required. I actually have some clients that were on TRT that I have helped them through their own choice. I didn't tell them to do it. They were able to get off the TRT or reduce doses and stuff like that. Also, if you're like a high performer, if you want brain power, if you want a higher cognitive performance, or also stress, if you feel like you're stressed a lot, that's another piece of the puzzle that I think we help people almost immediately reduce stress to an extent where they're like, oh my, I had one lady, she's a CEO in West Virginia. She hadn't even started the supplements. She's like 62 or 3 or so. She hadn't even started the supplements. She's just started eating the way the meal timing, the foods I told her how much. And she's like, the first comment she said to me was like, last week or last Friday, I felt better than I had in a long time. Imagine someone 62, 3 years old, high-powered CEO, multiple businesses, hotels, whatever the case, and had a previous history of breast cancer. So but can afford the best care, And actually, I'm also taking care of her husband, who is also CEO of multiple law firms, and they had the best care in the world. They go to the Cleveland Clinic, and
Mm.
and then he comes back and he tells me, "This is what they told me to do. What do you think?" So this is the kind
Right.
of level of care we can provide to people, where they go to the best doctors, and they come back to me after that. What do you think of this? Is that nonsense? Okay, I won't do that then.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's a good relationship to have with your clients, and that's a valuable service that you provide there. Now, for folks that want to learn more about your philosophy, right, and also maybe avoid some bad advice that they find on the internet, I understand you have a free masterclass that people can register for and get instant access to watch. Can you share what folks can expect? I dropped the link there. It's livelongerformula.com, livelongerformula.com.
Yeah.
What can people expect when they sign up and check out this masterclass?
So I will if you sign up to this masterclass, I am going to fire hose you with information about why you shouldn't do any fasting, any intermittent fasting. You shouldn't do low carb diets. You shouldn't take fish oil, and a few other health fads that you may be doing. You should stop. Um, it's a lot of, I'm kind of warning people already. It's a lot of information, so it may take you a few goals to process it all. But check that out. You can always, um, after that, I'll send you some emails to kind of expand on some of the points. There's be some links to my podcast where I do deeper dives on some of these topics. You have to not take my word for it. I'm going to present evidence for all of this stuff: the fish oil, the fasting, the low carb diets, why they're shortening your life. You don't have to take my word for it. I won't be giving you my beliefs. I'm going to show you the science of why these things are something you don't want to engage in if you want to live a long, healthy life.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Again, it's livelongerformula.com. Livelongerformula.com. Absolutely free to check out. So thank you so much for making that available to our audience. And hey, it's always a pleasure hanging out. I'm glad we got to go down a couple rabbit holes and pick your brain about some good
Yeah,
health
guys,
information as
always a
well.
pleasure. Thank you so
Appreciate you.
much.
All right. Take
See you,
care,
Christian.
Christian. All righty. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was fun.
It's a great podcast.
Mine's all orthoed out over here.
Come on.
All right, guys, it's been real. We want to thank you for tuning in to the program. As usual, we're bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. This is the Live Free Now Show. Thanks for being here.
Take care, y'all.
Peace. Later.